Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Nights in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, October 20th, 2024, coming to you live from Florida Media here in Rockville Center for a little early edition of Hockey Night in New York. A little 5:45 pregame for the Mets game, if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. But we're going live here. We got a big show coming up for you tonight. Chris King of the Islanders Radio Network will be joining us. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Stefen Rosner. Stefen, how do you do?
I didn't do it.
I think you did.
Okay. I'm doing great. Actually, my girlfriend and I are going to the WNBA Finals championship game tonight. And also, we give the Mets fans some relief here. They could pregame with us, hang out, and hopefully for their sake they win. And then we have a Subway Series coming up.
That would be nice.
But
That's what I'm pulling for.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I mean, otherwise I really don't care.
You don't really care to begin with.
It's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, so before we dive into the show, I want to thank our wonderful sponsors, starting with Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd and unplug your game at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Also proud to be sponsored by Center Station Bar and Grill in Rockville Center. Catch every Islanders game with great food and drinks at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center all season long. And also happy to be sponsored by Razor and Kniff Attorneys at Law, ready to fight for you. Check them out at razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. And if you're hanging out with us live here early in the chat, if you want to ask us some questions during the Questions Brewing segment, type Questions Brewing and then your question, and we will get to it later in the show. And now, with the pleasantries out of the way, it is time for Experience Points presented by Main Street Board Game Cafe, where we make our points about the Islanders' experience last week. So, Stefen Rosner, the Islanders played a few more games this week. Let's start right off with the big win against the Colorado Avalanche, 6-2 win after struggling out of the gate a little bit against Utah and Dallas. You get a nice 6-2 win. Brocktober officially began.
Twice.
Talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, I think Dallas was their best game so far of the year, but against Colorado, they played a very bad goalie. And when you play a very bad goalie, which the Islanders haven't usually done, is they made him pay.
Yeah.
Every mistake he made, they just made him pay. They got shots, they got in tight. Brock Nelson had a sick dangle, but I think the more impressive one was his shorthanded goal, another shorthanded goal for the Islanders. And I think it was one of those where they didn't score 3 goals and stop. They scored another one. And they scored another one. They scored another one. And they put it away. They got an empty net goal. Empty net goal, Matt Barzal's only goal of the year.
Took them a little while, but, you know.
But they did. So I think it was an important start. It was Sorokin's first start. And I thought he was incredible.
That's the big news. Not only was he back, but he had an excellent game.
Yeah, he stopped, I think it was 32 of 34, and you're thinking, okay, he's coming off the injury. It might take him some time. He looked Vezina caliber. He looked healthy. His rebound control was great, tracking the pucks, fighting through screens. It was a perfect, I mean, it wasn't a shutout, but it was pretty much as perfect as you could get for a guy that hadn't played a game or, he missed entire preseason. So, experience points for Sorokin because let's say I'm going to say plus 250 on that.
250. Yeah. I think that's solid. I'm going to go with 267. But Ilya Sorokin, outstanding game. And you couldn't blame anybody if they were a little, had reservations about him coming back, right? I mean, we were probably all ready for the built-in excuse, like, first game back.
There's the short side goal. There's the bad rebound.
He needs some time to come back, get himself acclimated. But right out of the gate, he looked excellent, and he followed it up great in a losing effort against St. Louis. And we can move on to that now. Thursday night, low event hockey against St. Louis. You had the 0-0 draw, and then they get to overtime, and that's when the loss came.
Yeah, again, Sorokin played fantastic. Maybe a little too deep in his net on the overtime winner. But I thought for the Islanders, they didn't get a lot of shots on goal. Chances. Hofer wasn't screened a lot, and a lot of the shots hit him in the chest. And then in overtime, Duclair. Overtime is man-to-man. That's usually how it's played.
Right.
And Hofer's really good at playing the puck. So I think everyone saw Duclair play Hofer, who had the assist, secondary assist on the overtime winner, Neighbors winner. But probably in overtime, you don't want to press the goalie. He has to play the puck anyway, and he's more likely to hold on to it, let someone come back. But once Duclair pressed him, that was an automatic odd man rush. The Islanders getting burnt. But another game where there were chances to score. Horvat wide open net off a Barzal feed 30 seconds after hitting the post or crossbar. Nelson had chances. He spoke about that the other day too. So that's the concern a lot in this year is that the Islanders, sure, it's positive they're generating the chances. I think we'd be more concerned if they weren't. But their goal scorers weren't scoring.
There was no finish.
The goals.
There was no finish. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for the Islanders, that's a tough one to lose. You get a point, which is important when you don't play your best. But they had chances to win that game, and they left points on the table.
Definitely squandered a point in that game. That's one that they wish they could have had. They could have had a nice little clean sweep of the week if they had have been able to pull that out against St. Louis. But let's move on to last night. Montreal Canadiens come to town.
Doozy.
A doozy indeed, and you know, you're still seeing these bad habits creep in, and that's probably the most concerning thing. I mean, the nice thing is by NHL standards, they have a winning record now after the stressful shootout victory last night. But you look at what happened there, another late lead where, about 4 minutes left in the game, and they're coughing up a tying goal. It almost looked like Varlamov wasn't ready for that shot, the way it went in.
They talked to him after the game, and he was pretty upset with himself on that. Obviously, it's a screenshot, but it seemed like his blocker wasn't set, and it was more back, and when the puck hit it, it skipped over. It's very tough. But I would say that he rebounded, I guess pun intended there. He allows 2 goals on 9 rounds in the shootout. Some of them missed the net, like the last shot, but for goaltenders, if players miss the net, usually means you took up a lot of the net where you forced them to try to hit a small spot, and because your positioning was so strong, they missed. I'm biased, like to credit the goalies when I can.
Sure.
But I thought he was great in overtime. The overtime frame, I mean, the Islanders had a power play in overtime. That's the concern here.
Right.
1 for 6 on the power play. But
usually that buries them in overtime when they give up the power play.
Yeah, when you get a power play in overtime, especially when your power play was 1 for 5 in regulation, you got to find a way to end it there. They don't. Absolutely. They had a shift in this game that was over 3.5 minutes long, where they got 2 line changes on that.
And came up empty with it.
And I think they got 5 shots on that. And Pop post game said he was asked about that lack of shooting. And he goes, "Listen, we were trying to make the play where we create a slot shot or a pocket, and it wasn't there, and we were tiring them out." He wasn't concerned that they weren't trying to drive the net or things like that. He was happy with the way they played that. Unfortunately, they don't score. I think you could probably have snuck in another line change when we get that second line out there. And it's the same thing on that shift that you saw on the power play a lot. A lot of the passing was exceptional. Crisp passes. He said he wanted more poise in the offensive zone. He got it. The problem is, if you don't shoot, you can't score.
And overall, they had a good amount of shots on the board. The problem was a good portion of them. I commented on Twitter that they were going right in the keeper's chest. They had a lot of good opportunities going into the chest. And then I made another comment about Barzal. Listen, we know his reputation for looking past first. Right. That's just the game that he plays. But last night it was a lot. To the sense where he had a wide open opportunity right in the slot, and he opts to pass it to Horvat on the goal line. And he had a clean shot at the net. It might have went to the goalie's chest anyway, because that's what was happening last night. But just if you're an Islander fan watching that situation, I mean, golden opportunity to put a puck in the net, and maybe you don't have to go through overtime and the 9 innings of a shootout. That they went through
Simon
last night.
Holmstrom, that move, breaking ankles there. We know this kid's great at shootouts. As it was going longer, you're thinking, who else is going to go out there? Romanov was a guy that in training camp and during training camp had filthy moves. Siplikov, first off, they had a lot of moves, like Siplikov's move. Great move, just lost the puck. Right. So, yeah, it was a weird shootout.
I got to say, when Romanov stepped up, I was like, all right, Waz just giving up. He's just like, anybody get out there.
I'll credit, though, because they were doing a training camp game, and whoever lost shootout to do more of those sandbags, and Romanov won it for his team on a nifty move.
Okay.
The questionable part is Kyle McLean's first NHL goal was on a breakaway at a penalty box. He never went yesterday.
Yeah, that's the thing. There were definitely names on the list you might have thought that Wow would have went with first. I mean, look, they got the win. Dobson ends up getting the winner at the end on a pretty nice shot.
Yep.
But, I was just like, we're throwing Romanov out there? I was like, is Mayfield coming out next?
Marek Malik's coming out next. That was next.
Right.
But the important part is if you blow a lead late in regulation and you don't score in overtime, yes, you don't want to give another team a point, and you want to win that in regulation overtime for the tiebreaker, regulation now. But you do get the 2 points. So they're not happy about the way they played.
That's the game they typically lose.
Right, exactly. If they had lost that game,
it's slow progress in the right direction.
3 blown third period leads in 2 home games, that's not good math.
Not good math at all. And before we break for Chris King, let's just talk about, the big news here. Anthony Duclair, what's the latest on him? Yeah,
so no update after the game yesterday. The Islanders were off today. Everyone could go to Twitter and be doctors. Definitely was a right leg injury. People were saying he grabbed his groin. Sure. And we all saw that.
Okay.
It didn't look great on the ground. But yeah, he's lower body injury. We'll find out tomorrow at practice. And then the Islanders place Gauthier on waivers. Yeah. We'll get into exactly what that means, but 24 hours to pass through. So if they're going to call somebody up, Doesn't mean they'll be at practice tomorrow. 2 p.m. tomorrow, we'll know. They can practice. There's loopholes, things like that. But, yeah, expect a call-up coming.
You got any candidates for that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Hudson Fasching.
Okay.
He has struggled in Bridgeport, and he struggled during Islanders training camp. But Watt trusts him. We saw him play in the playoffs. He also didn't play for Bridgeport today. So that's what gave me the hint.
Okay.
Financially, everyone could ask, why are you sending Gauthier down to just bring Fasching up? That doesn't really help. Cap, everything like that. It gives him like $212,000 in cap space, cap accrual, where the more cap space you have, the more you have at the deadline. That's important. And I think, too, it also depends on who's going to go now in the top line role. Let's say it's Siplikov, who I think it should be. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. Then they want to have someone call up, okay, well, if Siplikov's going there, maybe we're going to move Holmstrom to line 2. We need someone that could play a third line, fourth line winger role. Hey, Fasching, we trust in that spot last year. He's a better fit. That's why I think Fasching's coming up.
And maybe somebody's first thought, because I know it was mine, was Pierre Engvall, but the money just doesn't work.
The money doesn't work, and I wrote it down because I'm smart. I'm kidding. So $1.85 million in cap space they would need to clear. 1.15 of his contract was buried in Bridgeport. So right now, when Gauthier does clear, they'll have 1.05. If Engvall was going to be an option, Wahlstrom would have had to have been sent down given his $1 million cap hit. So yeah, Engvall, guys, not an option. Foudy's looked really good in Bridgeport.
Okay.
Karlstrom's looked good in Bridgeport. Maggio's looked good in Bridgeport. I just think, regardless of how Fasching played, he has a track record with Waugh. Waugh in the big moments trusted Fasching, and now I think in a bottom 6 role, Fasching's the guy, but we could talk more about the lineups after Kinger.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought maybe it was, look, Gauthier didn't have the best game
He did not.
last night, but I didn't think he was going to get sent down so soon.
Yeah, and I think a part of it is if we're calling someone up, if we're going to pull someone up from wherever in the lineup, who do we trust to play 8 minutes a night in a situation, maybe a penalty kill spot, things like that. And I just think Fasching, and like you said too, though, Gauthier had a terrible night. He played 742 minutes, he had 2 hits, and it's great that he brings speed to McLean and Cizikas, but he had a couple of weird decisions in the offensive zone, and I think quickly they were just like, you know what, we need a better trustworthy option.
Yeah, and I think we had a little more hope for this fourth line out of the gate here, and unfortunately it seems like it's been a bit of an issue.
And I don't want to say it was Wahlstrom's fault, because it's not. It takes 3 players on a line.
Right.
Wahlstrom was, at times, you saw, okay, better defensively, things like that, but the Islanders need to get the most out of Cizikas and McLean. So I think they were trying to adjust to Wahlstrom as well. They weren't getting off to the great start. McLean, before last night, was leading the NHL with a 74% faceoff. He had won 27 of 37. But if you don't do anything off the faceoff wins, kind of pointless, right? And Cizikas has struggled as well with his decision making. So I think they have to find the best option to get those 2 guys going, not the best option for that spot.
For sure, for sure. Well, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in here to Hockey Night in New York. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Chris King of the Islanders Radio Network will be joining us. We'll be back.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is Hockey Night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is Hockey Night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan. Did you have a nice break? Well, it's time to get back on the couch for more Islanders therapy on Hockey Night in New York.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching Hockey Night in New York, and joining us right now from the Islanders Radio Network is the great Mr. Chris King. Chris, welcome back to the show. How you been?
I'm great, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Doing
a little
good.
early edition of Hockey Night in New York here, so people can get the show out of the way and watch the Mets game later if need be. But, hey, we're 5 games into the Islanders season here, 2-1-2. What do you make of their performance so far?
I mean, I guess you look at it 2-1-2 and points in 4 of the 5. You got to be pretty happy with how it's gone. The strange thing is, on that 3-game road trip, the 3-0 loss at Dallas, is the one Patrick Waugh said was the best game of the trip. So if you're saying your only regulation loss was actually the best game you've played on a 3-game road trip, I guess you're doing all right. I mean, I know, we'll get into it, I'm sure, guys. There are certain areas that can certainly be improved. But I think for a first 5, you would take 2-1-2.
In terms of Maxim Siplikov, obviously this is his first stretch of NHL action. Just what have you made of his performances so far?
Yeah, I've been impressed, Stefen. I really like the physical aspect of his game. Obviously, I love, his job as the net front presence. He really seems to, enjoy that battle in front of the net, which is what you want, right? So he's done a terrific job. I wish they had more power play goals to show for it, but certainly, in the preseason, we saw him, do a good job with that role. I think the thing that's impressed me most, to be honest, is the passing ability. He's kind of sneaky smart with the way he's able to get passes through. And if you look at, the numbers that he came over in his final year of the KHL with, everybody pointed to the goals. And the 31 goals, obviously a big number. They were 4th in the entire league, but he really didn't have a lot of assists. So I've kind of really been surprised at what a deft passer he is and how smart he is and the way he's able to kind of get that puck through. Spots that maybe don't look like they exist, but he ends up getting the passing there. So I think I've been, most pleased with his passing ability. Obviously, we've seen the great shot on the nice goal that he had. And I think, he's only going to get better for a guy that's, first time in North America. He's having fun with the language, obviously. The fellow Russians in the room help. But, Stefen, I know you've talked to him a lot. I have as well. And he has not turned down a single interview request. And I'm not saying he always understands everything that's said to him. But you know what? He's not afraid to engage in conversation with you. And he's been fun so far.
Yeah, Chris, he's been a very pleasant surprise. Why don't we move over to the other new guy on the block who we're kind of waiting to find out what happens with his injury status after last night. But what do you make of Duclair's game so far, how he's fitting with the first line, and Barzal and Horvat?
Yeah, I've loved it, Sean. There's just no doubt about it. It's a big question mark right now. Last night he goes down, and we didn't originally think it looked too bad. He kind of split the D and fell down, and all of a sudden he's got to be helped off the ice with a trainer under one arm and a teammate under the other. So everybody, Isles Nation kind of holding their breath right now because this is the guy, right? This is the big free agent acquisition. He got the 4-year deal. He's been on the first line since day one of training camp. And, the thing we've talked about on the air, and Patrick Waugh has mentioned it too, of all the players that have been through that spot, first line left wing with Horvat and Barzal last year, I think I counted 8 different players who had a chance in that spot. And, of course, Casey Cizikas ended the season there, right? The ultimate 4th-line player was a first-line left wing. He seems to be the best fit. There's no doubt about it. And I think the speed is the biggest thing. They have never had a guy, any of those 8 that were in that spot last year, that can skate like he can.
Absolutely.
He's got a great hockey sense. Obviously, we've seen his shot as well. He likes to, work it on the power play too. He's been a key part of that first unit, although, again, they haven't scored as much as I'd like. But it would be awful tough to replace him. So I think everybody's holding their breath. And, Anthony Duclair is really the guy that, to me, can bring out the best in Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal because, again, with his speed, he can create room for them to do their thing. And Barzy has obviously thrived in that. We've seen Bo Horvat's great shot with a nice power play goal last night. So, Stefen, I know you'll be there tomorrow at practice as I'll be, and I think we'll all be holding our breath to see if, number 11 takes the ice for practice.
So you mentioned the power play. Obviously, it's been abysmal would be the word. I'll call it 2 for 15, right? At home, they were, 2 for 12 so far. It seems like they're trying to go to Horvat every time they can, and it makes sense. You just talked about his wicked shot there, but I guess what do you outside of just shooting the puck, but what do you need to see more of? Because the passing's been fine. It's just there's chances and deciding when to let the puck go.
Yeah, well, I think Patrick Waugh hit the nail on the head last night. He was asked the same question in the postgame, right? And he used one word, volume. He said, we just need more shots on goal. And if you look at the numbers last night, it kind of bears it out. The final total was 8 shots on goal on 6 power plays. And you can't just have that. You can't average 1.25, 1.5 shots per 2 minutes of power play time. So it's got to be at least 2 shots per power play. To me, I'd want 3 shots per power play.
Why not
and
4?
if you look at the way he coaches Stefen, he runs them through that interview where he gives them 30 seconds to get a shot off. If they don't get the shot off, he whistles it down. So if you're looking at 30 seconds to get a shot off, they should have 4 shots per power play, right? So it's just got to be more shots. But boy, is that a sweet setup that we've seen work in practice? We've seen it a lot in the preseason, and last night it finally came through because Horvat is so good at finding the space in that bumper area, the soft areas, just kind of, laying in the weeds, and then he's open. And Barzy is just a master at finding a way through that seam. And when that saucer pass lands on Bo's stick and he one-times it, he almost never misses the net, and it can just be a lethal combination. So, like I said, we've seen it so much in practice, so much in the preseason. It finally clicked in the regular season last night. But again, just like the first game, they scored on the first power play, and then they didn't, in the next 5. Now, again, you got to put a little caveat there because the 4-on-3 power play in overtime, they hit the post twice.
Yeah.
On the same sequence. So, it was there. It was right there on the 4-on-3 in overtime. Luckily, they got bailed out in the wild 9-round shootout. But I think it's coming. But now, obviously, Duclair, the big question mark is, when he went down, they had to rotate, somebody else. Brock Nelson moved up. J.G. Pajot moved up to the first unit. They had to slot in Simon Holmstrom on the second unit. It just changes everything. So I love the balance that he has in the quote-unquote 2 units. And, Patrick has told us, I don't want a 1A and a 1B power play. I want 2 number 1 power plays. And if you look at the personnel, obviously the Horvat Barzal power play to me and Dobson is going to be number 1. But the second unit has guys that have scored a ton of power play goals the last couple of years in Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson in particular.
To further power play, you mentioned volume and you mentioned Siplikov before with that, scarecrow move. And I think both goals, both of Horvat's one-timers came with Siplikov in front. I guess going back to the whole volume thing, don't you think it just makes sense to keep it simple? He's right there in goal. If he's doing his job in front, whether the goalie makes the save or produces a rebound, lets the goal in or produces a rebound, don't you think just when Siplikov's in front, just shoot it low?
Yeah, I agree. Create the rebounds, right? And Anders Lee is great at that too on the other unit, right? He is a great net front guy, and you're taking the goaltender's eyes away. And I know Butch Goring screams about it all the time. He's like, just shoot the puck. And I think, you do need to maybe try to just get more point shots through because, like you said, with Siplikov's ability to do that, Anders Lee on the other unit, let's just shoot it low. Even if you're shooting for a rebound, number 1, sometimes it goes in if the goalie's screened. And number 2, you got Anders Lee and Siplikov on the doorstep who love that battle on the top of the paint to find a way to knock the rebound home. So, I know it wasn't on the power play last night, but look at the Anders Lee goal, right? J.G. Pajot with speed through the left circle, low shot off the pad, huge rebound, and the captain, crashes the net, puts the puck in and puts himself in. But, that should have been the game-winning goal coming that late, but we know that didn't happen. So, yeah, I think, sometimes the best play is to simplify it, and that's a way to generate more shots, right? Let's have them just shoot it more from the point, set the screens, and pop the rebounds.
Absolutely, Chris. And you talk about increasing shot total, and I was groaning about this a little bit to Stefen before you came on. Just to listen, Matt Barzal is a setup man. He's always looking pass first. We know that, and we understand why that's the case. But I feel like last night he was guilty of overselling the pass a little bit too much, overemphasizing the pass a little bit, especially with that play in the slot. Do you think Patrick Waugh and the coaching staff at all is putting any emphasis on him to shoot the puck more? Because he's got a good shot. When he lets it go, he usually knows where to put the puck. He just has such a penchant for looking for the pass. It's almost to a detriment at times, like last night.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sean. And I agree with you. I think, especially because it worked so well on the first power play of the night, of course you're going to try to go back to it.
Right.
I think he was trying to force it a little bit too much the rest of the way. I've also seen, times where they give it a different look. Maybe they'll swing him over to the right side just to give it a different look. But you're right. He's got such an incredible shot. He's coming off a career high total in goals with over 20 last year. I don't think he realizes just how good his shot is when he's out there with guys like Bo Horvat, who obviously can bury those one-timers. So, yeah, I think the coaching staff may say, hey, let's try to shoot it, because if you're going to find a way to open up that soft spot in the bumper or the pocket, as Patrick Waugh likes to call it, you've got to have the threat of at least sometimes I'm going to shoot, or else they're going to take it away all the time, right? They're going to give you the shooting lane if they don't think you're going to take it, and they're going to take away the passing lane. So, you have to at least keep the defense honest and give somewhat of a threat that, hey, if you're going to, give me the shooting lane, I'm going to take it, as opposed to him trying to force it into that PK box when at times it's just not there.
Karen, let's put Patrick Waugh hat on you for a second. If Duclair has to miss time, who are you trying first on that top line?
You know, Stefen, it's interesting. I thought about a lot this, and yes, I do think about these things in my free time because they intrigue me. But you know who I want to see? I want to see Oliver Wahlstrom just go straight there.
Wow.
I just do because here two reasons. Number one, it leaves everything else the same, right? You don't touch the second line, you don't touch the third line, you leave the fourth line, which I know has only had Julian Gauthier on it for one game, but it leaves all those lines the same. And what does Oliver Wahlstrom have that may be the best on the team? His release, right? He's still, in my mind, probably is the best release of any player on the team. Now, you look at what he did through 4 games on that fourth line with Zizekas and McLean. He only had 3 shots on goal in 4 games. He has to shoot the puck more. So if he's playing with Barzal and he's playing with Horvat, guess what? They're going to set him up, and Barzal's going to set him up for a lot more than, less than a shot per game. So to me, again, a right-handed shot, play him on left wing, keep that stick to the middle of the ice, give him an opportunity, if Anthony Duclair is not there, to run with the big boys. And this, to me, will really tell, can he play a top 6 role? Because I really think he has to. Right now, he's absolutely not in the top 6. But, sometimes you can find things that you don't see or weren't there despite, the fact because you were healthy is what I'm saying. So now an injury opens something up. You really don't have an opportunity to give him that spot without an injury, but it's there now. So to me, I like Oliver Wahlstrom just going to that line, keeping everything else the same, and Horvat and Barzal are going to give him a lot more opportunities to get that insane release off and hopefully score some goals.
It's a great point. Not something I really thought of, going from the scratch house to the top line. Twitter's going to throw up, by the way, when they hear this, but it makes a lot of sense.
You got to give him a chance, right? You got to give him a chance. Let him play with the big boys. Let him run with the big dogs. Come on.
I love it, Chris, but also I love the point about just keeping the balance of the rest of the roster intact. I think that makes sense. So I think you won me over with that argument. Right. We spent a lot of time on the power play. Why don't we go to the other side and look at the kill? Obviously, a thorn in the side of the team last year. Didn't exactly improve under Patrick Waugh. In fact, the numbers got worse after he took over. What are you seeing out of the penalty kill so far, and is there hope for improvement?
Well, you know what, Shawnee, you think about it, right? I know opening night, it was awful. Utah had 2 power plays. They scored on both of them, but they go through the 3-game road trip and they don't give up a single power play goal against. And the key to me on that road trip, they gave up 2 chances in one game, 2 chances in another, 1 in the third. So they only had 5 power plays they had to kill, and they killed all 5. So, obviously last night, the power play goal, again, just the lone opportunity, and it killed them. So on home ice now, I think I'm thinking to get this right. On home ice, they've faced 3 power plays and given up 3 power play goals against. I believe that's right. Yeah, 0 for 3. And then on the road, it's been perfect, 5 for 5 on the kill. And, let's not forget, they are tied for the league leading shorthanded goals now with 2, along with the Florida Panthers. So, the kill needs to be better, obviously. But, on the road, it's been perfect. At home, it needs work. But when you can chip in with 2 shorties, that helps as well. So I think it's a work in progress. Again, they have a brand new coach behind the bench, a veteran guy who, Tommy Alberline, who did it for years and years with the New Jersey Devils, brings over kind of a different approach from his coaching in Europe. And I know, and having talked to a lot of the guys about Alberline, especially the defensemen, because that's his other role, is working with the D and the penalty killers. They say a lot of the approach is a little bit different. I know they're trying to, go to that flush, to be more aggressive. It's going to take a little while, but I haven't been, I've been more upset at the power play's lack of scoring than I have at the penalty kills' lack of success thus far.
Last one for me, Kinger. I know your son's a goalie, and we talk a lot about it, but do you ever get, are you surprised anymore when Sorokin just does what he does? I know he had the injury, comes back, seems to not miss a beat, but, he's just been incredible. Does it surprise you at all?
I guess we're not, right? Because Sean and Stefan, we watched him so much now. It's kind of the same answers the players give us, right? No, because we've seen him do everything, and you kind of expect him to do that. But, what a return it was for him. We don't know when that back surgery was, but it's still coming off back surgery. Yeah. Doesn't, misses the first 2 weeks of training camp, 2 full weeks. So has 1 week of training camp, doesn't even so much as dress for a preseason game, let alone play. And then suddenly, I thought the Islanders did a great job in his first game Monday in Colorado of really limiting the scoring chances by the Avs in the first 2 periods to kind of ease him back in. I think that got his confidence back. In the third, he was terrific. He was their best player in the third period. And then in St. Louis, he threw a 60-minute shutout only to lose in overtime. So, to me, I'm thrilled at how good he's looked early on. I have no doubt that he'll play Tuesday against Detroit at home. That'll be his home debut. That'll be special for the fans to see him. And then, you know what? They're in the perfect rotation at that point, right? Because Varley's played 3 times. He's played 3 times. And then you got the wacky schedule coming up where they have back-to-back games Friday and Saturday, going to have to split the goalies there. Back-to-back days off, Sunday and Monday. Back-to-back games Tuesday and Wednesday. So they're playing 4 games in 6 nights, which is the most the NHL allows you to play in a 6-night span because you can't play 3 in a row.
Right.
So they're going to need both. And I think they'll have, like I said, the perfect split going in. And from what he's shown us on the road, Stefen, he is ready and back to form, and hopefully back to form of 2 years ago, because he'd be the first to tell you, last year your hope was just an outlier because he was not nearly as good as he was the year before when he was the runner-up for the Vezina Trophy. So he's got, a lot of improvement based on what he did last year, but he showed us 2 years ago, when in my mind he was the best goaltender in the National Hockey League 2 years ago. And can he get back to that? It would be huge for the Isles.
No doubt, and certainly encouraging so far, Chris. The last one I want to leave you with is Noah Dobson. We speculated a little bit last week about his defensive play, wondering if he still has a window to grow there. It looks like he could use a little bit of improvement on the defensive play. What have you seen out of him so far in these first 5 games? He's obviously still, contributing on the offensive side, but what do you see on the defensive game, and do you think there's still room to grow for him?
Well, Sean, the heck with that. We got our shootout special.
That's true. That box is checked 100%.
Hey, before we get to the other parts of his game, let's put this in perspective, all right? 2 years ago, the Islanders won 1 shootout. Last year, the Islanders won 1 shootout. This year, shootouts, 1 for 1.
Off to a good start.
In the bottom of the ninth, or in the top of the ninth, Noah Dobson scored the goal. And then in the bottom of the ninth, Varley forced a shot wide. So our 2 baseball teams are going strong in the Yankees going to the World Series and the Mets trying to get there. So I was using baseball parlance there in the top of the ninth and the bottom of the ninth. And I guess Dobson and Varley gave us a skate-off win last night in that crazy shootout. But I agree with you, Sean. I think, he knows he's got to work on the defensive side of the game. But, when you look at how he quarterbacks the power play, I think he's obviously his option number 1 is always to go to Barzell, and that's how it worked out on that first assist. But I think that second assist is a beautiful thing. If you look at that replay, he only picked his head up for about half a second, and then he had to put his head back down because the defender was coming towards him. And you want to talk about a perfect pass on the tape of Kyle Palmieri. I mean, that was a pass, a thing to behold. And, Palms did his thing with the great rush and the great shot. But that was, to me, the reason why he had 60 assists a season ago. So I agree with you. I still think, he needs to be a little stronger in his own end defensively, but he's such a perfect complement for Romanov, who loves to play that physical, take the body, block the shot style, that if you ask him to be the offensive defenseman, then you got the perfect complement. But what a start for him to have, 4 assists already through the first 5 games.
Absolutely, Chris. And Chris, always a pleasure having you on the show. Really appreciate you rolling with us with the schedule change. Much appreciated on that front. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always great talking hockey with you.
You got it, Chris. Take
See
care.
you, Kinger.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the great Chris King from the Islanders Radio Network, doing an outstanding job covering the Islanders every game. So, folks, we're going to take one more break, and we'll be right back.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York. The best night of the week for any Islanders fan. Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on right here at Hockey Night in New York, right into Center Station Bar and Grill, presenting the What's on Tap segment. So, Stefen, we got another 3-game docket for the New York Islanders coming up, starting Tuesday against the Detroit Red Wings, a 7:45 start. And I believe that's because that's the night where they're doing all the games. What are they calling it again? The Frozen Frenzy, I think, or something like that? There you go. I remembered something.
There you go.
Look at me.
Last year was also on a Tuesday. The Islanders played, I believe it was an 8 o'clock start against the Avs.
Yes.
That was the game where the leads went back and forth.
Yes. So 7:45 start at UBS Arena. The Detroit Red Wings come to town. That's another team kind of in that wild card area of the Atlantic Division. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see if they'll finally kind of challenge for one of those. They got a little
Probably
close
not.
last season. It didn't work out. Stefen, you don't seem to think so.
What is this Yzerman plan? What's the plan?
The Iser plan?
It's a concept of a plan, but they have like 18 goalies. They have, their bottom six isn't much to really get excited about. You have Kane and Tarasenko, but you're older. DeBrincat seems to miss wide open nets like it's his job. And there just doesn't seem like there's a plan. And it's unfortunate.
I'm not upset about it, but you would think that by now they'd be a little bit further along, right? Especially with all the praise that he got for what he did in Tampa, right?
But was it him or was it Brisebois?
Well, I guess that's the question now, right?
I think a lot of these teams where you look at them, the Penguins, Ottawa, all those things, Ottawa got Ullmark, or Edmonton or Toronto, it's like, you need to get goaltending. Start with that. They got Billy Husso. They thought he was going to be the answer. He's not. I'm pretty sure they put him on. Did they put him on waiver? Something happened. He didn't play.
Yeah. I think they waived him. Yeah, I think so.
They waived him. They have. It's a mess. It's an Alex Lyon.
Mess.
No offense to Alex Lyon. Like, no offense, but he should not be starting or backing up. Solid guy, probably a great human being, but they just lack talent in the areas where in the NHL to have consistency, you need that. And for the Islanders, yes, they went up against a Montreal Canadiens team that's in a rebuild, which they're well aware of. You give them a hard time, but Detroit at home, if you're not going to win,
it's got to be 2 points.
Yeah, you got to get the 2 points, especially with Kinger just said, the amount of games you're going to play, who you're going to play later in the week, we'll get to in a second.
Yes.
It doesn't get easier. It gets harder.
Correct. And let's talk about that. Friday, the Isles go into New Jersey. That is the 25th. That's a 7 o'clock start. Devils look like they're going to be that team we expected last year. They're already off to a hot start this year. Markstrom looks like he's getting the job done early there between the pipes.
Casey's going to be an unreal player for them.
Good young team. Yeah, this is a team that looks like they're going to be the real deal this year as long as they can stay healthy, unlike last season. So that's a tough litmus test for the Islanders on Friday. That's a big division rival there. That's a team that they could end up jostling with for positioning in the Metro when all is said and done.
Usually when you play the Devils, you think they're a very, very fast team, which they might have even gotten faster. And how can the Islanders do against speedy teams? That was a big question mark under Lane and under Trotz. Like, those are the teams that gave you trouble. Under Waugh's more aggressive system, how often are they going to get caught? That's the big thing. How many odd man rushes are you going to allow? Things that with Markstrom, he's been great, but like any goalie, we'll see who starts, by the way. But like any goalie like that who's really on their game, you have to get traffic. There can't be no traffic or people getting late to get to the front of the net. You got to get Lee. You got to get Sibukov. Those guys have to crash net hard. And you got to, a lot of teams lately, I don't know if you've been watching a lot of hockey around the league, a lot of those alley-oop passes, teams are trying because they catch the D that are really aggressive. And I think against the Devils, you're going to see the whole group go up ice. And I wonder if the Islanders try to do that where they get the puck behind the D and chase, because the Islanders are a great fork-ticking team when they get and establish that early. So this is a Devils team that's really fast, and the way to slow teams down is get on the forecheck, establish that from the get-go. That way you play your game, because against those top teams, once they get to their game, you're in trouble.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. That's going to be a tough game. And it is going to be interesting under the WAS system because, you look at what they did under Trotz, and they figured out a way to slow teams like that down when their system worked successfully, right? They were able to clog them up, and they were able to kind of, work their game against them. And we'll see if Patrick Waugh can do that. You make a good point. Is this sort of scenario where they're going to end up chasing because, Waugh has them playing a little bit more of an up-tempo style hockey. So we'll see. Tough game against the New Jersey Devils, but as you said, it doesn't get any easier because the Stanley Cup champions are coming to town on Saturday. Florida Panthers come to UBS Arena that night for a 7 o'clock start, a 7:30 start, excuse me. Obviously, it goes without saying this is the best team in the league.
Best team in the league, and they're without Barkov right now. He'll be back, but regardless, this is a team that won. You win in the playoffs because of your depth, and they did lose a couple of players here and there, but they're still their team, and Paul Maurice is probably the best coach in getting their team to play the right way. So yeah, it's tough. That's why you have to beat Detroit. I mean, you don't have to. There's no such thing as a must-win game on a Tuesday in October.
Depends on who you talk to.
But with the amount of games coming up, you got to look for the win there in Detroit. Devils get a point. I think getting to obviously is ideal, but against these tough teams, that's when getting those points matter. Now, blowing leads in the third period or failing to score on the power play when you can and getting that 1 point, that's a terrible loss when you blow the game. But against really tough teams, if it's a battle, you get to overtime and you get 1 point, at least you can be confident the way you played. You held with one of those teams. It's a good measuring stick, and you get the point. But yes, the Islanders would love to get 2 against each team they play. We'll see what happens. I guess you're going to ask me what I think this week, so I might as well get ahead to it. Let's. I'll say 1-1-1. Beat Detroit.
1-1-1.
I'll say beat Detroit, go to overtime or extra time with the Devils. Maybe you lose that one. I think Florida's just one of those teams that's a really tough team. I know they're in their home building, but so far at home, yes, they got the win last night. It's been really shaky for them.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I'd love to pick a different number, but I think I think 1-1-1 is the way to go there. You gotta beat Detroit. And you'd be happy to get 3 points. Even a point out of those two games.
Yeah,
right. Two tough games against the Devils and the Panthers. But maybe
the Islanders did beat Florida last year, and it was Julian Gauthier scoring 2 goals in Florida. So
that's right.
He's not here, so pour one out.
Right,
but,
see you later, pal. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them get at least a point against New Jersey. Obviously, 2. But if we're going to be a little humble, maybe they steal a point against New Jersey, and maybe Florida is a little too much to handle at home. But as we saw this past week, they gave up a loss to the Blues, and they end up beating the Avs. So who knows what happens?
Johnny Laz called that one.
He nailed it. So that's going to do it for What's on Tap as far as the games go. But also want to remind you all about our viewing parties coming up Sunday, November 3rd. The Islanders are going into the Garden to play the Rangers. We will have a viewing party for that game, and of course a pregame show as well as Saturday, November 16th. The Islanders will be playing the Seattle Kraken at 4 p.m. Same deal, viewing party at Center Station Bar and Grill. Can't wait to hang out with you there, so definitely come on down. And that will do it for What's on Tap, presented by Center Station Bar and Grill. Catch great food, drinks, Niles games, and live events at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center. And Stefen, we forgot to close out experience points, or I forgot to close out
speak for yourself, man.
Points with doling out some points. I know you gave some to Sorokin earlier on. Anybody else catch your eye, have a good week or a bad week for you?
Anders Lee, I think, has been one of the most underrated players so far on this team. He's shooting at will. He's getting to the net. His skating looks great. He's making the plays. He's going to the right spots. I think last year maybe Pajot makes that play and he doesn't get to that rebound, or the puck goes off his stick. So
sure,
I would say 110 for Lee.
110.
Yeah. He's had a great week.
Wow. All right. Fair enough. Let's see. I mean, we got Sorokin. You know what? I'm going to give Siplikov another 27 points. You know what? A little humble, but
take like 3 off for some of the mistakes.
He's still finding his game, I think, here in North America. But I think overall, I like what he's done. I like what Chris King had to say about him. So I'm going to give 27 points to him.
Let's give 1,000 to Chris King.
1,000 points
he killed
to
that.
Chris
That was
King.
great.
And another minus 500 to me for forgetting to close the segment.
There you go.
So now I want to tell you all once again about Main Street Board Game Cafe in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play, food and drink, beer and wine, fun and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Our staff will help you find the right game from old favorites to the hottest new releases. We have everything from strategic to easy party games. Get off your screens for a night your family will remember. Looking for meetups to join our Magic the Gathering Dungeons and Dragons, Lorcana, and organized play communities are welcoming for all. We also do parties and corporate events located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd. Unplug your game. And now it's time to talk about some heroics. That's right, folks. It's time for Hero of the Week after that brave,
that was great.
heroic,
I'm ready to run through a brick wall.
Little jingle there. All right. You want to lead it off, Pal?
Sure. Ilya Sorokin I've talked a lot about, and I can't say enough of how good he looks after no preseason games. Forget the injury. Let's say just no injury, no preseason games, getting your timing down. Stopped 61 of 64. I'm not good at math, so the calculator did it.
It's a high percentage.
953 save percentage. 32 of 34 in the first game, 29 of 30. And like I said, a lot of, the highlight reel saves are great. You'd love it. But usually when a goalie has to make those saves, it's because of the mistakes he made with the rebound control, the tracking. I've seen him be aggressive, doing all those things. And I actually spoke to him before the road trip, before his first start of the season. I asked him, what did you have to work on this summer? And also with screens, what do you have to do a better job of? And we have the audio here. You said you watched a lot of film this summer. Obviously, you were rehabbing, so more video work. I guess when you look back at last year, what was the biggest thing that you wanted to be better at this year?
Positioning, everything for small steps, positioning, traffic play, 2-on-1, so every moment should be better. With the screens, what do you have to do a better job of, maybe than you did last year in fighting through bodies? Play, staying better position and play a little bit aggressive. More aggressive, that's PR.
Yeah, so obviously what I just said, broken English a little bit, but he was pretty much talking about how positioning is key, the little things. I don't know if you caught that on there, but the little things, the little steps, the side-by-side movement, and just being aggressive is huge. Talk about screenshots. Sometimes when you can't see the puck, if you're taking up more of the net, it might accidentally hit you. Or the other thing, too, is the in-tight deflections. If you're in your net, in-tight deflections, look at the St. Louis Blues overtime goal. Sorokin, it's not his fault, that whole game, obviously. But that goal goes in, and it sneaks in off the post and in on his right.
Right.
If he's out, that in-tight deflection might hit him in the chest.
Sure.
So how far you come out is huge. And I thought outside of that, Sorokin was brilliant. Tracking is everything. Once you do the tracking, then you can control your rebounds or hold on. He held on to a lot of pucks. He didn't come off his post, which is, we should see that short side for him a lot. Mm-hmm. I can't say enough about how well he's been.
Yeah,
doing.
If there's one huge bright spot right now for this season for the Islanders, is not only Sorokin coming back, but just the way he's looked so far, so everybody can kind of breathe a little easier.
And also, too, not to cut you off, my bad, but is the fact that he makes the first start. It's great. The adrenaline, things like that. But, okay, are they going to give him some time to see how he feels after his start? What are they going to do? Is he sore? He starts the next game and is as brilliant. So I think that's even bigger positive is that he looks great, but also doesn't look like his body's fatigued or the no playing makes him, sore on his back, things like that. So I just can't say enough.
I'm with you there, and now I will give you my hero, which is Broccoli Nelson. Brocktober has begun.
That was corny.
It was. And I'm leaning into it.
That was two vegetables there.
Broccoli Rob Nelson. How about that?
I'm leaving.
All right. Brocktober has begun, ladies and gentlemen. It started against the Avs on Monday. A shorthanded goal and a beautiful, nice little deke, left, right, left to pot a goal. So he is off and running here in Brocktober. We
Good
still
defense,
got
too.
10, 11 days left. We'll see how much more he adds to the goal totals. But I like what I see from him. And you mentioned before the show, the defensive side of things, looking good on that end.
Yeah, he gets knocked for his defensive play. Maybe he's taking some steps back in that with his old age. But every time I see the puck in the D zone, he's making plays. He's in the right spots to pick off slot passes. He's doing all those things. And I think that is huge. That's especially when you have a new guy in your line like a Siplikov who looks fine defensively positioning, whatever the word is.
You got it. Yeah, you're good.
Whatever. Nelson getting back and taking some of that defensive pressure off Siplikov is huge. We know how good Palmieri is as well. He doesn't get credit for how well of a two-way guy he is. Mm-hmm. But when you get forwards to buy in and help out in the back end, it just helps all aspects of that line. And that line's been good.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks. Ilya Sorokin, Brock Nelson are your heroes of the week. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Isles Fix. Islanders Country, get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix Monday through Friday. Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at islesfix.substack.com. And now it's time to go to the questions.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead. Ask us some questions.
Wow. That's right, folks. It's time for Questions Brewing, and hope you were able to adjust to the time like we did, and you're hanging out with us. Ed.
We're in there.
Yeah, we got some active chatters in there.
T-Boyle must be going nuts.
T-Boyle not only asked a question on here, but he also responded to your Twitter post. So I'll decide which one.
Ready and raring to go.
I'll decide which one I'll pick.
Do him second.
You're the master of questions, buddy.
The master of
do him second.
This is all you,
questions.
pal.
Yeah.
Don't give him the satisfaction of going first. Do him second.
We got. I see new people. I want to give it to new people first.
Yeah.
So we got JJ17 Sports on YouTube.
What's up, JJ?
What do you guys think of Maxime right now?
Well, we already talked about it. Chris King gave a little nice synopsis of him, too. I like him so far. There are some warts. There have been some questionable plays, some giveaways here and there. But I think all in all, with the question marks coming in, with previous experience with other guys coming over from the KHL, it hasn't gone so well. I think that so far, he's a guy you can look at as a bright spot.
I think his IQ is significally exponentially higher than anyone would expect it. I know Kinger talked about the passing, but also his ability to learn exponentially. Sometimes it takes players 20 to 30 games from training camp preseason day one to the last game of training. I mean, that was Holmstrom's job on the second line. Siplikov said, I don't think so. And
Mine.
And Waugh kept saying, after game one, I told him he had to adjust to this. Next game, adjusted to it, didn't go back. Like you said, he's got some things to figure out, but for what they're paying him, 1 year, $950K, right? That's if you get what you're getting right now, forget the points. Just the play, the IQ, everything. Mm-hmm. In front of goal, he doesn't get credit for those power play goals unless they hit him.
Right.
He's been exceptional.
Next up from Harry at Nosier on Twitter. Any chance one of the Maggio, Dufour/Jeffrey lines get called up to fill a wing spot?
No. Next. No, I mean, listen, let's be real about it.
Wow.
I think those, outside of Dufour, because he has one game of NHL experience and he's played those guys are rookies in the AHL. Dufour is not. They're going to go with veterans. There's so many guys in Bridgeport. I know they don't have the cap space for Engvall, but Fashing, Foudy, it is Foudy, by the way, not Foodie. I learned that.
Okay.
Foudy, Karlstrom, fashion, you have veterans, Pino, Terry, not that he would get called up, but you don't have to go to those young players yet. You have guys that have proven it at some point at the NHL level or have dominated the AHL level that they'd probably get the chance over those 3 guys. And also, they're young. Let them keep going, especially if they're in a new system now. Remember when Kowalski, Waugh takes over, I don't think Bridgeport really established much of his thing. But now with training camp and preseason, now that brought the structure they need down there. So give them time.
That was a very sufficient response. I don't need to add anything.
Adding nothing. Neither do I, funnily enough. Next up from NZAB09. There seem to be a lot of players pulling their weight. Who needs to step up for this team to win more games?
Well, I guess I'll go back to Noah Dobson on the defensive side. Now, obviously, as Kinger pointed out, the offensive side of the game has been great. Keep it up, Noah. No problem there. Win us some more shootouts if you can. But I do need to see some more growth out of Noah Dobson on the defensive side, especially with, we're 5 games in now, and we're already kind of seeing things rear their head that we've seen, previously last season, what have you. That's, with all the ice time he's going to get for this team, that's something that ultimately could burn them, especially when they're going up against the Devils of the leagues, the Floridas of the leagues. This is something he has to clean up. Now, again, love the fact that he's a potential 80-point defenseman here, but he's a guy who I need to see step up on the defensive end. I don't know if you have somebody different.
Yeah, I think Barzal's got to be better. I think, he scores an empty net goal, big empty net goal for them, but you said it. Last year, and Kinger said it, last year he has a great season, shooting the puck, making plays, and he's hesitating, and he wants to go to Horvat. And I think the biggest issue is, before last game, he led the NHL in zone exits. I think it was 16 or something like that, which is great. But the problem is maybe his teammates need to do a better job of opening up space for him. But he was peeling, he'd get into the offensive zone and then he was doing the peel back, or he was in the neutral zone and he'd peel back in the D zone, drop it to the D to restart. We know how good Barzal is. We know how confident he is.
Right.
I'd rather see him try to be aggressive. Forget the turnover numbers. If you have the puck on your stick a lot, you're going to turn the puck over. It's just going to happen. Last year, he led the league in steals, takeaways. So I'd rather see Barzal be aggressive and try a one-on-one move than peel back. Because if you don't try it, then the other team's going to say, we know what you're going to do, and it's going to go back to the whole, we're going to live in the shot lane. If he doesn't shoot it, that's an advantage to them. So I think Barzal has the confidence in his game. We got to see him be more aggressive in transition and try to make some plays.
I'm with you.
Speaking of Barzal, DTMR asks, does Waugh sit Barzy for a few shifts for not shooting? Draisaitl saw some bench time.
While some of us might want to see that happen, I don't think it's happening anytime soon unless it really
Barzal would have to really piss Waugh off.
Right. I mean, this guy is central to your offense from the forwards, more or less. So, I mean, unless he really, it continues maybe, it's egregious, but it's going to take a lot to bench Barzal.
You'd have to curse Waugh.
And as much as I was whining about him not shooting last night, it's still not enough to pull him out of the lineup. But I'm with you in the sense that it's frustrating when he doesn't pull the trigger as much as he should be.
It's like the Dobson mistakes. Waugh should bench Dobson, sit him, put him in the press box. Okay, now you just lost a guy that plays 20-plus minutes a game.
Yeah.
Now who's filling that role?
And I understand the want to teach a lesson, make them conscious of the fact that maybe they're not pulling their weight as much as they should be, but there's a delicate line. There's a balance there where, are you just shooting yourself in the foot if you're benching, your top players here? So I think they really have to do something that's just a no-brainer sort of situation for them to be like, all right, you got to sit, but we're not there yet.
And also, too, for fans, after games or after shifts, Waugh's very vocal talking to them. You just might not see it. They know when they make a bad mistake. They're well aware. They're honest about it. They talk to us about it. But behind closed doors in the meetings, it's brought up, and it's a lesson, and you just hope they bounce back from it.
Yeah. Next up from Tom Boyle. Do you think Gauthier will clear waivers?
I do. This is a guy that clears waivers every time he goes on waivers, and it's not a knock on him. I think there is some value, and also him going to Bridgeport where he was last year. A lot of teams are cap against the wall. There's no room for him, and he hasn't shown a reason for teams to take a gamble. A guy like Wahlstrom, who's young and maybe needs a change of scenery, that's a guy you see probably get cleaned, but not a guy like Gauthier.
Well, because of Stefen's confidence that he won't get cleaned, I'm going to say yes.
Okay. There you go.
Sound like my twin brother.
Moving on to golf ops. He's asked, what's wrong with the McLean line defensively? Not generating offense as expected, but their defensive play has been so underwhelming.
Yeah, they're out of sync. And I think a part of it is, one, Cizikas no longer has Martin and Clutterbuck. He's getting adjusted to brand new line mates for the first time in his career, outside of Martin being gone for 2 years. And I think McLean, a lot of the time last year, didn't play with Cizikas. He was Cizikas' replacement. So I think Cizikas has to learn how to play. Remember also, too, Cizikas' job has been only defense. Now they want more offense from that line. I think maybe he's overthinking things, trying to get the puck up the ice fast to start rushes, but turning the puck over instead of just playing the game that he's played for his entire career. So I think they're going to need time with whoever their line mates are because this is brand new for Zizekas, and also he's playing the wing. He's at different spots on the ice now, and I think he's smart enough to figure it out, but I think it will take time.
Yeah, with you. Go ahead, Ed. Maybe one more.
Next up from aisle 72, I feel like Holmstrom and Pajot are not bringing much to the table. How would you grade them?
I would say the complete opposite.
Put in experience points.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
put in experience points. First off, Anders Lee has been great on that line. Pajot in transition, forget the penalty kill. He's making great plays. He's catching passes down, his hand-eye coordination. Last night looked like he was fine from that injury like 3 years ago in the bubble. And I asked Wah about Holmstrom, who before last night's game, and I think he still has 1 5-on-5 shot. And Wah laughed and said, I didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know. Sorry, Simon. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there. But what he said was, he goes, well, Holmstrom's not getting the shots, but Lee's shooting a lot. Pajot's getting in. That line's working well. So maybe the stats don't show for Holmstrom or that line in general. But outside of maybe even you could say that line's been more consistent than any other line.
Yeah, I'm not upset with the third line. Again, maybe you want to see some more numbers.
And you want to see Holmstrom shoot and score because the whole chat during training camp, and we talked about it a lot, was how much confidence he had in his shot. So you got to see it. But I think it would be an issue if that line wasn't helping out in all their aspects. I just think the shots are going to other people, and Holmstrom's doing his part to create separation or win the puck battles that don't come up on the score sheet.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with their game so far, and I think they'll continue to gel as the season goes on. I actually think that's going to be more of a bright spot than a detriment for this team going forward. And we could do one more quick one, Ed.
Yeah. Next up from Trotty19. I love the phrasing in this, by the way.
He doesn't disappoint.
How did the New York Islanders remove from their DNA blown third period leads? Same team as last year with the same results doesn't help.
The early going certainly isn't encouraging in that regard. I mean, for me, and maybe I'm just being Shawnee optimistic and hopeful, but it's happening early. It's happened these first 5 games. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to continue. We get to game 10, game 15, and we're seeing the same thing. That's when you're like, okay, this is a bigger problem. Certainly don't want to see it out of the gate or at any point in the season, but I'm still kind of giving pause on just running with the assumption that it's going to be same old Islanders third periods for now.
And what I'll say is Lane didn't change stuff up when they were blowing leads in the third. I remember asking him at a press conference, and I said, are you thinking about changing who you have out there late in games? And he goes, no, those are the guys that we expect to get it done. I think Underwell, like you said, he's going to go with the guys he trusts. But late in games, I wouldn't be shocked to start seeing different line combos with different players because Wah's not going to have the patience for it. He's just not. He hates losing more than he likes winning.
Well, we're unfortunately going to have to cut questions brewing a little short because we were up against the gun, but we thank you for your questions. If we didn't get to you next week, hopefully we will next week. And before we start wrapping things up, buddy, nice shirt there. You guys might have noticed the shirts that we're wearing here.
Thank you.
Yeah, pretty fashionable. Our pals over at the Rangers Ed podcast, Little Ed over there, great dude over there, created some t-shirts for us, for their podcast, for Devil's Show, I believe a Penguin Show and Philly Show as well, basically uniting the shows here to raise awareness for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're wearing these tonight. We'll probably wear some next week. We'll see what happens there. We got one for Ed over there, but yeah, they're doing a great job over there. If you're interested in purchasing one, you can go to armorizo-design.square.site. I'm going to give you that one more time. armorizo-design.square.site. We'll also post that up on the socials and stuff like that. Yeah, up on the socials so you can check it out. But great stuff from them. Love the shirt. In October, hockey players wear pink.
In Brocktober, yeah.
In Brocktober. Indeed. And one more little nugget. Want to remind you all about our Patreon launch at patreon.com/HockeyNightNY. Exclusive content featuring Q&As, columns, videos, behind the scenes, merchant partner discounts, and even an invitation to hang out with us here at Floored Media while we air the show. It's a great way to support what we do here, so please check it out and consider joining. And I already told you about the live events, so Edzo, we can wrap this thing up, man. All right, folks, want to send a big thanks to Chris King of the Islanders Radio Network for joining us. Jay's jamming out over there on the headphones. Great stuff from him as always. Always a pleasure to have him on the show. And, of course, a big thanks to our wonderful sponsors, starting with Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Find out how to unplug your game at mainstboardgamecafe.com. Also, a huge thanks to Center Station Bar and Grill. Head on down to 279A Sunrise Highway for Isles games, live music, karaoke, comedy shows, and more. more in Rockville Center. And of course, a big thanks to Razor and Kniff Attorneys at Law. Nobody likes going to court, but if you have to, call 212-LAW 1500 for a free consultation. And folks, remember, if you haven't already, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. That helps us out. Stefen Rosner, where can everybody find you?
Follow me on Twitter or X at Stefen_Rosner, STEFEN_Rosner, the Hockey News Isles, NHL.com, and the Elmonter is my Substack.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can follow myself on Twitter at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show on all social media platforms at Hockey Night NY. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week at your regularly scheduled time at 8 p.m. on Sunday. Thanks so much to you for hanging out with us live here at the early time slot. Enjoy the baseball, enjoy the basketball, enjoy all the New York sports going on. I believe there's a football game on tonight, too. The Jets, Giants, whatever the case may be. So, for Stefen Rosner, for Edzo, for Jay, for Hockey Night New York, I've been Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night New York. Have a great Sunday night.